I know most of you in the room. I've been a school psychologist for 12 years. This is my 8th year at ACS. Yay, doesn't seem that way, but 8 years. We have a great presentation for you tonight. It actually is pretty much the same as what our 4th through 8th graders saw in November. I sat through it 4 or 5 times, I can't remember. But every time I picked something out different, and I remember after the first time my eyes were just wide, and all I kept on thinking is, why didn't I know this? Why doesn't anybody know this about energy drinks and things like that? I have a 1st grader and I have a 4th grader at home. Before I saw this presentation, if my 4th grader would have grabbed an energy drink and asked, please, can I just have one? Not sure what I would have said. I wasn't informed. So this presentation definitely opened my eyes. I'm really thankful that all you guys came out tonight to hear it. We have Kyle Chartrand from Pivot, which is now what the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council is called. He is a community educator and a counselor there. I also wanted to mention that at the end of April, we're in the works. We're coming up with the second part of our heroin presentation that we did in January. Our next presentation that we are in the works planning is a panel. We want to do a panel talking about prevention and intervention of the drugs. We're going to get people from Credo, Rose Hill, River Hospital, and Cornell Cooperative Extension to come in. They're all going to present what they do and resources they offer, and then we'll have a question and answer session. So that's something to look forward to probably the end of April. I hope all of you that are on Facebook go on to our Alexandria Central Support Team page. It's where we will put on information about our presentations. And anytime I get any parenting articles or things that come our way, we'll put up there too, just anything that we think is worth the read for you guys. So I will leave it up to Kyle.
Questions at any time, please just feel free to raise up your hand. You don't have to wait to the very end to ask me questions on anything, so just raise your hand at any time, okay? By show of hands, how many people in this room have ever drank an energy drink at least once in their life? What are some of the things you guys have had, if you don't mind me asking? You can just yell them out. I don't need to have your hands up. Just yell them out. What have you had?
5 hours.
5 hour. What else?
Monster.
Monster. Okay. What else? Anybody have Red Bull, NOS, No Fear, anything like that? Anybody have any of those?
Full throttle.
What's that?
Full throttle.
Full Throttle. Okay, there's another popular name I hear quite a bit of. Now, in your opinion, do you think soda, Gatorade, Powerade, and coffee are those energy drinks? How many people think yes, they're an energy drink, in your opinion? How many people think no? How many people really don't know for sure either way? Which is completely fine. Okay. Yes, they are classified as an energy drink, however, not to the degree the ones we're going to be talking about today. And as I go through this presentation, I will gladly do a caffeine comparison for you guys, just to show you the true differences with everything. And just so you know, I am not up here today to glorify coffee. I'm not up here to glorify soda. So do not get that impression. I'm just trying to show you how much worse energy drinks are for you compared to those. Okay? So to start off with, what is an energy drink? As you can see, there are a ton of things inside of energy drinks. How many of you have ever read the label of your energy drink before you consumed it? Anybody? Okay. How many of you guys understand exactly everything that's in there? All right, fair point. And not to pick on you guys, because when I say it, probably 98, 99% of the people that drink those things have no clue what's in them at all. Every single one does contain B vitamins and herbs. That is correct. However, these are not natural. They are synthetic. They're artificially made and put inside of the can. So when you consume your energy drink, you are not consuming a daily servings of B vitamins and herbs. Okay, they're not good ones to consume. caffeine is an essential ingredient of every single energy drink. All right, now I know the 5-hour commercial says, oh, drink this, there's no sugar inside it, look at all the sugar inside of Monster, so on and so forth, and that is probably true. But that being said, sugar and caffeine are two completely different things, so do not get confused by them, all right? There is guarana in every single energy drink. I know for the last few years, guarana was really a buzzword that was being thrown around, but no one really had any earthly idea what it was. I know the commercial talked about it a little bit, but they did a pretty poor job explaining it, to be very honest with you. The first thing I want to touch on is taurine. How many people in this room have ever heard of the word taurine? Okay, good. How many people in this room know what taurine is? Okay. All right, one person knows what it is. All right, good. Now, every single one of us in this room, myself included, all have natural taurine inside of our systems, okay? Its main function is that when you are exercising, you're lifting weights, or playing sports, or something along that line, your body will release taurine to regulate your heartbeat so you don't die of a massive heart attack, okay? So it's obviously a great thing that we all need to survive. However, this is not natural taurine, it is synthetic, it's artificially made and put inside of a can. And the biggest reason why they do that is to counterbalance the high caffeine counts that go inside of these cans, okay? Now, with synthetic taurine, I'll tell you guys right up front, energy drinks are not regulated by the FDA, the Food Drug Administration, all right? They have not even checked them out yet, they do not know what's in them, and I guarantee you, when the day comes that they do get around to regulating these things, this presentation will probably look substantially different because we will know every single danger that is inside of energy drinks, all right? Now, to start off with, some of the dangers with synthetic taurine is when you consume an energy drink, you flood your natural taurine with synthetic taurine, okay? And right off the bat, one thing that can happen is you can make your body believe that it's producing way too much taurine, and it'll stop producing it all the way around. Which, yes, that is a very bad thing, and yes, people can and have died from that, all right? Another thing is that the synthetic taurine could actually make your natural taurine do the opposite and make your heart beat up faster as compared to regulating it, which, yes, you could die of a heart attack that way just as well, and yes, people have, okay? Now, the last thing with this that we know about for sure is that the synthetic taurine can make your natural taurine work even harder and slow your heartbeat down to the point to where you can die from that as well. All right, those three things have happened. Those are three things that we hear about the most as far as energy drink related deaths are concerned. There's many, many doctors, many, many nurses that verify that statement. Okay, any questions at this point from anybody? All right, now, in your opinion, where do you think they get this synthetic taurine from that goes inside of energy drinks? Where do you think they get it from?
Animals.
Say it again?
Animals.
Yes, that is correct. Okay, when I do this presentation for the students, a lot of times I'll tell them they get it from dead people just to kind of wake them up, you know what I mean? They really don't, though. They get it from animals. When a farmer brings their cows in their bulls to the market to be slaughtered or butchered, whatever you still choose to call it, they will go inside of their stomachs and their intestines, and that's where they get the taurine from that goes inside of these drinks. Okay? Could you all please excuse me for one quick moment? I need to step out just for 1 quick second. That's okay. I'll be right back.
sick all day, and so he tried to hold it together all day for us, so but he said he's gonna try to come back. Okay, but in the interim, well, I mean, what a start to this. Does this just not amaze you? I mean, I sat for the first time, like with Jaden, you look at the kids' faces about what this is. I think the thing that bothered me the most was that the FDA has never even looked at it. And I just assume everything that's being sold on our shelves is safe. I just trust our government that it's safe, and naive me, silly me. So. But hopefully if he gets to come back, we can get through this. But in the interim, what other things are you as interested in? I mean, we have a nice cross mix of people here. We have parents, we have a couple students, which is great, community members. What other things, as we plan our future activities, what specific things are you interested in? And let's bring it in. The one in April, as Stacy told you, is we have doing intervention and a panel coming in. What were you saying there? Did you say something? Oh, I'm sorry. I really think, Jane.
Synthetic drugs and diet pills.
Yeah, synthetic drugs, okay.
Just to add on to what you said about the diet pills, I think with the students going into the high schools and playing football and other sports, you probably want to attack the pre-workouts and supplements that they take while they supposedly are going to use it. It's what they hear and what they don't hear.
Well, don't they have, like the healthy steroids, they call them sometimes, right?
Yeah, you can call them that. But yeah, I think that the high schoolers definitely need to get in on that too.
Yeah. We're making a list of all kinds of things for future events.
Oh, excellent.
Alrighty.
I apologize about that. I'm actually a little under the weather today, so I'm very sorry for stepping out. But anyways, getting back to touring, yes. When a farmer brings their cows and their bulls to the market to be slaughtered and are butchered, they go inside of their stomachs and their intestines, and that's where they get the synthetic taurine from, the main ingredient from it, rather, that goes inside of your energy drinks. So basically, the main ingredient for taurine is nothing more than liquid bile, the same stuff that comes from your stomachs when you vomit. Okay? And not to mention, just as well, if you are a vegan or a vegetarian and you've had an energy drink, congratulations, you kind of defeated the purpose of what you're trying to do. Just throwing that one. Next slide. Like I said before, the essential ingredient in every single energy drink is caffeine. Now, caffeine is a drug, obviously. It's a stimulant drug. It's going to speed up your central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord. And you're right. And it's the same stimulant found in coffee or tea, often in the form of granada. I'll talk about granada here momentarily. But I will say a lot of the average energy drinks this day and age have gone really from 100 to about 400 milligrams. I've really gone from about 100 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per 8 ounces. Now, that being said, if I can talk, that is. That being said, 8 fluid ounces is just a serving size. That you're not going to find an 8-ounce energy drink anywhere. It's just a serving size in the can. And studies do show, in fact, that one of the most popular can sizes that people buy are 32-ounce cans. Okay, they have different nicknames that people give them, which I will not elaborate too much on right now. They call it like the BFC, for example. I'm sure you can figure out those initials. But that being said, those are some of the more popular cans that people buy. So if you are consuming one of those cans, you're not just consuming 400 milligrams of caffeine. You have to do the math. If 8 fluid ounces is a serving size, 8 times what is 32? 4, okay? So 4 times 4 is 16. So you're consuming 1,600 milligrams of caffeine inside of that one can. You are also consuming 1,600 milligrams of taurine inside of that one can, which equals out to 3,200 milligrams of stuff inside of one can that nobody's system in this world is really equipped to handle. Okay? So how does that compare as I said before, a serving size of energy drinks contains 400 milligrams of caffeine. Wow. Excuse me, I apologize to everybody. Like I said, a serving size of energy drink contains 400 milligrams of caffeine. That alone, a serving size, is equivalent to 5 cups of coffee for all you coffee drinkers in here. Now, the FDA obviously does regulate soda, and they told soda companies a long time ago, the max milligrams of caffeine you can do per 8 ounces. The max that you can do per 8 ounces is 37 milligrams. Mountain Dew is the only soda that does that. That's why everybody has labeled it as the bad soda, per se, okay? Coca-Cola, Pepsi, other ones are usually anywhere from about 23 to 25 milligrams of caffeine per 8 ounces, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, to equal the caffeine of one 32-ounce energy drink with 400 milligrams of caffeine per 8 ounces, you would have to consume 43 16-ounce Mountain Dews. All right? Now, and I don't mean 43 Mountain Dews over the course of a year. I don't mean 43 Mountain Dews over the course of a week or a weekend. I mean 43 just as quickly as you're consuming that 32-ounce energy drink. All right? Also, to equal the caffeine of one 32-ounce energy drink, someone would have to consume 20 cups of coffee. And once again, in the same time frame that you're drinking that 32-ounce energy drink. Okay. Now, what is guarana? Guarana is a climbing plant that is common in Brazil. Now, what makes guarana so important is its fruit, which is, about, this big around a little bit smaller than a baseball. And inside of that fruit, it's riddled with thousands of little black seeds. And one little guarana black seed has 5 times as much caffeine in it as a coffee bean ever thought of. And if you know anything about coffee beans, there's some pretty high caffeine counts in there. All right, so one little black seed has 5 times as much caffeine in it. Now, a lot of people have said to me over the years, well, if this stuff is a fruit, how come we can't just go to the store and buy it like Aldi's or Walmart or Price Chopper or wherever you get your produce from? And it's really quite simple, because if you tried to buy this stuff, it would kill you. If you tried to eat this stuff, it would kill you. All right, there's a layer of poison in and around this fruit that kills and repels any insect or animal that comes anywhere near it. So basically what they do is they hire people to pick this stuff, they put it in the factories, and they have a way to get the poison out, and then they excrete the caffeine from that fruit into your drinks. All right. Energy drinks may cause seizures due to the crash following the energy high that occurs after consumption. How many people in this room have ever heard of the crash before? Somebody talk about the crash, or maybe experienced one, or anything else along that line. Basically, how the crash works is this. Every single day, every one of us in this room, our systems really run at neutral. Picture like a vehicle going down a nice smooth road. Obviously nowhere around the North Country at this moment in time, but picture a vehicle going down a nice smooth road, okay? That is your system. And when you give your system a drug-induced high, what's going to happen is you're going to take that, from a nice smooth road, and you're going to jolt it way up in the air. All right? Now, there's no step ladder, there's no elevator back down, it's just a straight drop. And when that happens, that's when people will experience seizures, heart issues, will pass out, be ready to go to bed. A number of different things can happen in that area. That's really what the crash means. Now, this next bullet down here talks about, this happened in 2001. There's a high school basketball player by the name of Ross Cooney. He was in perfect health, great athlete, so on and so forth. He decided to consume 4 cans of Red Bull before his basketball game, and he dropped out of a heart attack in the first quarter. Now, what really made this case that much more important was the fact that this was aired on ESPN that night. Okay, so anybody that tuned into ESPN that night saw this happen live. And so then what France did is they turned around and they banned Red Bull. They said, we can't have this happen, over here, this makes us look bad and everything else. But Red Bull, in turn, took France to court and said, unless you can conclusively prove it was our product that killed this kid, there's no way you can ban our product. All right? So during the court case that happened, France conclusively proved with their doctors and their scientists and everybody else that was looking into it, that it was the taurine levels inside of Red Bull that killed Ross. Instead of regulating his heartbeat, it made it beat to the point to where it couldn't take it anymore, and he died of a heart attack. And that case right there is really what got the ball rolling on energy drink education, because up until that point, there was not much that was known about energy drinks. And if you ever do get a chance to research that, I definitely encourage you to do so. There's a lot of great reading information in there. Around the USA, the drinks have been linked to reports of nausea, normal heart rhythms, and emergency room visits. They can cause liver damage, heart failure, and even death. Okay. Now, how many people in this room are aware that energy drinks have an alcohol version of themselves as well? Like Tilt, Sparks, Four Loko made the news a little while ago for certain things just as well. And what you're going to look at right here in a moment, and you can click on that until the brain map comes up with you, please. And what you're going to see right here, this is the brain map, and this just basically talks about how alcohol affects your brain at certain points with the BAC. Up there in the top middle, that's what a normal brain looks like. And then as you can see, as someone drinks a little bit more, they get 0.05 for poor judgment, and all the way down through to 0.65 for death. Right? Just to let you see how that works. But a lot of times, some people have asked me what are the dangers of energy drinks and alcohol, mixed together with energy drink, alcohol and energy drinks. And it's really quite simple, because number one, right off the bat, you have two completely different types of drugs inside of one can. You have alcohol that's a depressant that slows you down. You have caffeine that's a stimulant that speeds you up. All right? Now, what's going to happen here is when somebody's drinking these things, is the caffeine is going to mask how intoxicated you feel, not how intoxicated you are, but how intoxicated you feel. So therefore, you can have, 3, 4, maybe 5 of these drinks and say to yourself, hey, I'm completely fine. I don't feel drunk one bit. I can easily drive home if I want to, and you may elect to do that. And then, next slide, please. And then what's going to happen is when if you do get pulled over, go through roadblock and blow into the breathalyzer, your BAC blood alcohol content is still going to be what it is, minus the caffeine inside your system. Basically, what the energy drinks do for you is they make you an alert drunk. All right, it's kind of like giving someone who's been drinking some coffee to make them more alert. A lot of people say, oh, it makes them sober. That's incorrect. It does not make them sober. The only thing that gets somebody sober is time. It just makes them more alert. All right? Next one, please. And both alcohol and caffeine are natural diuretics, things that can make you dehydrated. So when you drink these things, you're really getting a double serving of dehydration inside of a can, which is obviously going to hinder your body's ability to metabolize the alcohol out, which will therefore increase your hangover the next day, which I'm sure everybody knows, has heard is a great time to have. All right. Now, which ones up here have alcohol in them? Can you guys tell me? Just yell them out. Which ones have alcohol in them?
Rockstar.
Which one? Yes, Rockstar 21 is one of them. It's right next to Amp, in between Amp and Monster. That's one of them.
Sparks.
Sparks is another.
Tilt.
And Tilt, that is correct. Now, if you did not realize that energy drinks made alcohol versions of themselves, you really wouldn't be able to tell very much that that 3 of these up here have alcohol in them. Okay? It is designed that way for a purpose. These are really marketed and advertised towards teenagers. That is who they want to drink these more than anybody else. And to be very honest with you, alcohol industries are very, very intelligent because they realize if they can get people hooked on alcohol, or addicted to alcohol, addicted to drinking, before they turn 21, when that person does in fact turn 21, they now have a customer. Okay, so that is what they're setting out to do, especially in this case right here. These are just some local resources and services. Do you guys have any questions so far on energy drinks? Anything I've gone over, anything that was not clear for you? Anything at all? All right. So now we're going to move on to inhalants. All right, so with inhalants, what do you guys already know about inhalants? What can you tell me about them? What have you heard? What have you been told? What have you learned about them? What do you already know? Anybody?
When I was in school, they called it huffing.
Okay, good. That is one route of demonstration is huffing, which we'll talk about here momentarily. What else? Anything else? All right, so inhalants are deadly chemicals and poisons, products that are universally available. So like, for example, markers are inhalants. glue is inhalants, duster is a form of inhalants, gasoline, bleach, so on and so forth. And before you guys do go today, I do have a handout for you that talks about inhalants with your household items that you may have in your home. That's over there in the thing. I'll pass this out for you guys. Now, inhalant use often appears before the onset of alcohol or tobacco use, and what that really means is that inhalants is really kind of the gateway to the gateway, right? Because obviously alcohol, tobacco are two of the biggest gateway drugs that are out there. Inhalants really kind of is the gateway to alcohol and tobacco. At least 1 in 5 8th graders in Jefferson County have used inhalants. That is a very true, very accurate, and very scary statistic. Honestly, out of everything I've ever presented on, that statistic probably is the scariest one that I did. Okay. Over 2 million young people used inhalants in 2001. In 2001, 626,000 youth used for the very first time. You know, and the reason why we have Russian roulette up here is quite simple. When people abuse inhalants, it's really no different than someone playing a game of Russian roulette, because the very first time that you use an inhalant, it can kill you. You know, period. There's no two ways about it. It's, you know, I've had people say, well, you know, I've used inhalants many times before in the past, and I am fine at this moment. You know, and that may be true, but at the same time, it doesn't mean the next time you do it, something will not happen. Because really what makes something an inhalant, which I'll talk about one more depth down the road, is what it does is it replaces the oxygen in your brain with a chemical. Okay? And when you suppress your brain from oxygen for long enough, you can definitely go brain dead. You can have long-lasting effects that I'll talk about. So that's really what drives it home that makes something inhalant, is it replaces the oxygen in your brain with a chemical. So why are inhalants being used? Well, it's quite simple. Youth do not have to go to a dealer, because these products are found everywhere. They're found in schools, they're found in your homes, they're found in your relatives' homes, found in stores. You know, you don't have to seek out a certain person to buy it. Use can occur anywhere. You know, use can happen anywhere that I just mentioned: home, school, grocery stores. I mean, I don't know. You guys ever run into the problem before when you want to buy a Ready Whip can and the seal is cracked, and you know, you still buy it and you go home and you try to squirt it to get it out and nothing's coming out, but the can's still full? That's because someone abused that can as an inhalant inside of the store. Okay? It's not the whipped cream itself that's an inhalant, it's the chemical that pushes the whipped cream out. Alright? Products that are easy to conceal, you know, to be very honest with you, with inhalants, I don't think people put a lot of thought into someone walking around with a marker, especially if they're an art student. I mean, you're not going to think that, hey, maybe they're using this to get high. You're probably thinking, you know, obviously they're using this to do what they got to do. Use is very difficult to detect. Inhalant use, to be very honest with you, is one of the hardest things in this world to detect, because the signs and symptoms of someone who's been abusing inhalants, you know, is very similar to other drug use, and it's also very similar, like I said, to just someone, you know, maybe they were around, you know, fumes for a little too long. That, you know, that's the reason why they're acting that way. It's very difficult to detect. Adults are generally not aware of the problem, lack of education. People aren't aware of the consequences, you know, and there's always going to be a never-ending supply of inhalants. To be very honest with you, it seems like education as far as drug-related stuff goes has really taken a couple leaps and bounds forward compared to what it used to be. But with inhalants, that is something that is still, I think, a few years behind where it should be at this moment in time. You know, people just, they are not aware of it in general. And not to mention, too, a lot of people have grown up, you know, like my grandmother, for example, used to, you know, say, I want you to clean my porch, and she'd go outside and shut both doors in the porch and put the windows up and give me a huge jug of bleach and have me clean it with a mop. I mean, she didn't realize, obviously, that's an inhalant, and that could kill me at any moment doing that. But, you know, people are just not aware of it. Next one, please. So huffing is something we talked about earlier. You got huffing, sniffing, bagging, and ballooning. As far as the bottom one goes, yes, if you suck helium through a balloon, that is an inhalant. Okay? A lot of people are not aware of that. They think it's funny to do that to sound like Mickey Mouse, you know, for a little while. But what you're really doing, other than freezing your vocal cords, is you're replacing the oxygen in your brain with pure helium, okay, which can obviously kill your brain. You know, huffing and sniffing are pretty self-explanatory, and bagging, what that means is that someone is just doing that. They're spraying a product into a bag and using it that way as an inhalant. symptoms of inhalant use, you have paint or stains on body or clothing, chemical soaked rags, bags, or socks, spots or sores around the mouth or nose, red or runny eyes or nose, drunk days or dizzy appearance, just to start off with half of them. Then, the red runny eyes or nose, that can be also similar to other type of drug use just as well. Coordination difficulties, that can be related to other drug use just as well, which is one of the reasons why it's hard to pick up on. Slurred speech, obviously, anxiety, excitability, irritability, nausea, loss of appetite, chemical breath odor. These are just some of the symptoms as it relates to inhalant abuse. Negative consequences of inhaling fumes that replace oxygen in the body. Well, to start off with, we're all aware that being in a garage with the garage door down and having the car exhaust going is not a good idea, right? That's obviously an inhalant. Well, a lot of that I just explained to you with the part of the garage door being down, it's really not much different than like when someone is using an inhalant. They get the same exact things, and if someone's obviously really huffing or sniffing really hard, it's going to get to their brain that much quicker. Without oxygen, the brain cannot function. Obviously, we're going to have memory problems, difficulty with balance and movement, problems seeing, hearing, and speaking, loss of bodily functions, learning difficulties, other physical, mental, or emotional changes, uncontrollable behavior, just to name off a few, and I think there's more on the next slide too. And yeah, sometimes if the damage is permanent, you're not going to get better, obviously. Permanent memory loss, emotional instability, cognitive impairment, slurred speech, impaired coordination, loss of sense of smell, and impaired vision. Now, as I told you before, the very first time you abuse an inhalant, you can die. Well, guess what? The very first time you abuse an inhalant, one of these things can happen to you just as well. So you may not be dead, but you're going to live with this stuff the rest of your life. If you ever do come across someone who has been abusing inhalants, obviously it's very good to remain calm and do not panic. Anytime someone panics, it gets a little uproar, it just makes the situation a lot worse. Do not excite or argue with the abuser. Keep the person calm. Definitely ventilate the room if that's the type of inhalant that they were using. Open the doors, open up the windows. I think there's more on the next slide too. Check area for clues. Do not leave the person alone. And one of the main things to do is definitely to call 911, but also call the Poison Control Center because they are really equipped to handle a lot of these things like this. They come across these things. You would think warning labels on the bottle would really deter people from doing stuff, but sometimes the exact opposite happens. So these are the two different ways that inhalant-related death may occur. The first one is anoxia. What that means is the lack of oxygen. All right. The person that's dying this way is not going to die quick. Okay. What's going to happen is they abuse an inhalant, and their body will take about 17 hours to die. But it's not going to be the type of thing where it's 17 hours you're sitting here listening to me talk, and all of a sudden you drop dead. It's not that way. It's going to be like 17 hours where you're in a hospital room. They're doing their best to try to save you, but there's really nothing they can do. You set your brain a kill shot. The brain releases control over the rest of your body, and your body's dying. Okay, that's how someone dies from anoxia. Sudden sniffing death means just that. As you are sniffing or abusing that inhalant, it's going to kill you right on the spot. All right. So these are the two different ways that can happen. And what I will say is, more often than not, someone usually dies of anoxia over sudden sniffing death. Okay. And here's some more content information for you guys. Poison control. We used to be called the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council. Now we're called PIVOT, but we still do a lot of similar things. And I apologize again for me being under the weather. Usually I perform a little better than this. If you have any questions for me about anything at all, please feel free to ask. Inhalants, energy drinks, or any other types of drugs, anything that you may have, please feel free to ask. Yes.
Kyle, I know when you talk to our students, you don't give specific information.
Right.
At that, but with parents here,
Right.
can you give them more information about huffing and sniffing, particularly, and what things they should be aware of that are commonly used?
I believe a lot of things that are most commonly used are, like I said, are the products that you have right in your home. You know, and things to definitely be aware of if you come across, you know, certain different type of behavior, pattern changes with your students that you have. You know, I believe markers and scented markers are two of the most popular ones because a lot of people don't believe that scented markers were actually created so when they die there's no smell to them compared to a regular marker. A lot of people jam them in their nose and breathe in deep because they love the smell and ultimately, yes, that is an inhalant and they will get high from that. I will also say too that if you come across like clothing that is soaked with, you know, alcohol or bleach or something along that line, I would definitely be suspicious of that because chances are they're using that to get high. You know, the biggest thing that we come across as an agency right now in this moment is the air duster cans that clean computers. That is the biggest way that students are using inhalant is that. All right. Ready Whip is really kind of hit and miss. I know the movie Shooter and Mark Wahlberg really brought that to the forefront when he was doing that in there, but I think that's really died down a lot. But like I said, air duster is one of the biggest things right now, and that's why, you know, they sell it behind the counter and you have to have an ID to get it. That's the main purpose behind it. Anything else? Yes.
I'm just curious, what do they do to these dusters?
Well,
I mean, the one we have has a long, skinny, 50-year-old thing on it that the air comes out of.
Well-
I have no idea what you even do with this.
to be very honest, what they do is they flip the thing upside down and squirt it up their nose or in their mouth, and they puff in deep to get high from it. Because it's not uncommon for someone to do that to also break, you know, their nasal cavity and everything else.
If they don't, I mean, those duster cans, if you run them too long, your fingers start to freeze. So, aren't there going to be other side effects, like frostburn and stuff with that too?
There could be, absolutely there could be. Not always, but there could be. So a lot of times people, all they need is just one or two good jolts of that, and usually they're pretty satisfied afterwards. You know, like I said, inhalants is really the cheapest way for anybody to get high because they don't have to pay anything for it. All I do is find an ounce hole and they're fine. Or they're not fine, but they're set to get high. Any other questions? Yes.
We, last month or a month ago, had the discussion here in the meeting about, not really a discussion, but informational presentation about other drugs. And now we're doing this, and I understand that we're gonna have others. And my thing is always, so what do we do? Like tangible things, I mean, you give us the, you know, what to look for.
Yeah.
And things like that, you know, a part of me is vacillating between, well, what do I do to make sure it doesn't happen? And, you know, who are the kids that are doing this? What is it that's making them do this? Or what's bringing them to that point of desire to even think about it? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
my
well,
mind is like, who's the guy that looked at a can of air and said, let me shoot it up my nose? You know what I mean? Like, where do you know?
Absolutely. You know, and I will say too that it's even gone as far now where people go inside of a store and buy fertilizer and use that to get high just as well too. Because there's certain types of drugs inside of the fertilizer they can use to get high, but that's another thing. But, you know, but to answer your question, what you can do, honestly, if someone wants to do something, 100% wants to do something, there's really nothing you can do to stop it, if you want me to be very honest with you, okay? But at the same time, I think some of the best prevention measures that you can have is really honestly have good, open conversations, you know, with your kids. And I mean, that's probably the best way, and explain to them, you know, doing these things, this is what's gonna lead you to. And I'm not trying to say this, you know, to whatever, but it's the God's honest truth, you know, and we wanna see you do well and succeed in this world. And to answer the other part of the question, the biggest reason why people do it is because they know it's the cheapest way to get high. You know, kids are just dying to be, you know, adults some days because they think it's that adult life consists of going out and partying and whatnot. Because to be very honest with you, that's what they see on TV. Media glorifies partying, they glorify drug use and everything else.
I think the best way, like, have that conversation. You know, you have your son with you here today, so that's a great way. You can go home and talk.
if you don't have your kids with you, you could also talk about, I learned about this today, I learned about huffing. Do you know anybody that huffs or sniffs things in school? Do you know what this is? Just asking them questions. What do they know? They will tell you. No, I do know. So-and-so does that. Okay. Do you do that? No. Okay, what are you going to do if so-and-so, your best friend, asks you to do that? Those are the conversations that we need to have, open, direct, honest. What your best friend, Tommy's going to come up to you and say, come over to my house. We have this, can of whipped cream. What are you going to say? And then give them what you're going to say. Blame it on mom. I got to go. I have dinner at my mom's house. Oh, my mom's going to kill me. No, we talked about that. I will have my cell phone taken away. Give them lots of excuses. But you just have to have the conversations. I learned about inhalants today. I learned about energy drinks. And be concrete. Because they will tell you a lot of times. Especially early on.
Very true, yes. Definitely encouraging your kids to be as open, being open and honest with you. It's really one of the biggest keys. Yes, go ahead.
Just a couple of years ago, was that last year or the year before, my daughter and her friends saw on either YouTube or something the sit-in challenge. Did anybody see that in there? Craft, where you take a teaspoon of pure cinnamon and you try to eat it, and that can kill you. It can literally kill your lungs. They
Absolutely.
didn't know that. They just thought it was a big funny joke because they saw everybody choking and it was so funny, so they thought they tried. Killed her when they found out about it,
Right.
but they didn't know any better. They just saw it on
Absolutely.
YouTube or the computer or TV or something.
I tell you, anything that you want to know or buy or see, the internet has it all. It really does. It's absolutely crazy, the stuff that's out on the internet and YouTube for that matter and everything else. It's absolutely crazy. And that's definitely where a lot of students do seem to get their ideas from is they'll research it because someone will put on there that, oh, I did this and I'm just fine. It was, whatever. And basically what they're doing is taking the word of somebody who's not a professional in any way, shape, or form, but because they're okay, I'll be okay. Anything else? Real quick? Well, thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it. And I really do. I apologize once again. I tried my best to go through this without having to make the trip over to the restroom. But either way, thank you very much for coming. And I do have those handouts for you guys up front. Just to give you a little bit more information. So thank you again.
Anytime you guys, like I said, our Facebook page, our support team Facebook page, if ever I come across articles or we come across things that you guys should know about, like the cinnamon challenge, things like that, I will post them there. There's just one more access point where you guys can get information when we get it. A lot of time our pivot counselor here sends us some information about new drugs coming out or new things kids are doing. Anytime I can, I'll post links to articles and things to keep you guys updated because information's very important nowadays because that's, online is where our kids get them. Yeah.
I just wanted to share something encouraging. When Kyle came and spoke to the students, the kids took it seriously. I was riding with another couple to a sporting event, and the father bought a Red Bull. And when he got in the car, his son said, "Dad, don't drink that. That is poison. Don't do it." Well, he opened it, took a sip, and both of the boys dumped it out. So it is effective.
Great. Yeah. I just want to piggyback on one thing you said when you asked about the parent piece. When you brought up the cinnamon challenge, last year when that came out, and I was teaching an 8th grade life skills class, I push in once a week, and we talked about the prevention. It's like kids will tell us 100% they shouldn't be drinking, they shouldn't be drugging, they shouldn't be sexually active. I'm talking about the junior high level, okay? Because they're not healthy things at that age. So then my next part is, then why are you doing it? Okay, why are kids doing it? And I just started with the 7th graders yesterday, and the list of things these kids get, it just always blows me away. But one of the things one of the boys said, and it was the first time he said, it's the video games we watch. I said, what do you mean the video games? He goes, don't you watch them? Don't you play video games? I said, no. He goes, Mrs. Wagner, they're sexually abusive. The first thing out of his mouth. I said, who's sexually abusive? He said, in the video games. They're killing each other, shooting each other, they're killing each other, they're drinking, they're doing drugs, they're smoking, and they're sexually abusing each other. This is from a 7th grade boy. I said, no way. He said, you need to get on and check out some of these videos. Because now most of the games are great, right? And we have a lot of things we have a lot of teachers, a lot of adults who are involved in video games. They say it can be great fun. But apparently there's some, I don't know, I'm not a gamer, I'm not a good one to ask, but I'm just saying, know what your kids are watching.
Ask
If you want to know, ask them and
if you don't
sit
know.
with them and watch it, the whole thing. And when they're on YouTube, and I hear kids tell me this, my parents are so stupid, they sit there and they just think it's funny. And I show them the funny things, or I show them the animal stories, and I show them the cute things. And once they walk out of the room, then we put on the other stuff. Kids last year told me about that cinnamon challenge, and a bunch of them got together and were doing it. I was like, and they said, there's like 50, 60 versions of it. So I went home that night, and I was pretty much blown away.
They only show them choking on it, they don't
Right.
show those that
Die.
have like permanent
Yeah.
breathing problems because their lungs have been destroyed or the
But they
lungs
show
have
that
been
point right in the
destroyed.
middle where they're funny
Mhm.
because they're stoned, and the kids think that's a riot because they're stoned, but then they know that they get better. So it must be okay.